The end of all things. Run.
Alberto Mielgo's reveal cinematic short for Marathon, made with Agora and Illusorium, isn't just a slick marketing piece. It's a deep prologue to a world. It reimagines key moments from the original games while sketching out the tone, themes, and narrative direction of what is to come. It's dense, deliberate, and charged with meaning, a mission statement wrapped in style. The entire history of the Tau Ceti colony, its rise and collapse, is conveyed through a rapid-fire collage of imagery, color, architecture, and sound. There's no exposition, no dialogue-heavy explanations, just visual storytelling at its most distilled. The short film avoids linear exposition in favor of a fragmented chronology that echoes the philosophical backbone of Marathon: entropy, recursion, and synthetic life. The date stamp, July 3rd, 2794, anchors the viewer in a specific moment in Marathon's timeline, just as humanity's colonial endeavor faces annihilation. This is potentially the date that an alien race known as the Four attacked the colony on Tau Ceti 4 in the original games, but they are deliberately obfuscating some details here to hide the truth about what happened in this version of events. Through tightly edited, almost elliptical scenes, the short condenses decades into seconds. Is this an alien missile bombardment or a naturally occurring meteor shower plummeting towards the planet? The short opens with Bach's Concerto in D minor, Adagio. Adagio literally means slow, and that pacing immediately tells us something. Life in the colony was still, routine, maybe even sedated. This piece, originally an oboe concerto for Alessandro Marcello, was transcribed by Bach for keyboard, showcasing his ability to reinterpret and infuse existing works with new depth. There's something unmistakably human about piano, its imperfections, the soft mechanical thud of hammers touching strings, the slight variations in timing. It's not programmed, it breathes. But then those quiet spaces between the piano notes get filled by something else. A siren-like tone cuts through. It's a sound that, if you've played the original Marathon, you'll recognize instantly. It echoes Aliens Again, the very first track from the 1994 Marathon game. And the title alone suddenly feels prophetic. It clicks. It tells without telling. But as the scene unfolds, that delicate piano melody starts to warp. Subtle at first, just a hint of distortion, but then these synthetic layers creep in. They're dissonant, anxious, almost predatory. It's like the music itself is unraveling. What started as something clean and orderly gradually collapses into something unstable and chaotic. That shift isn't just atmospheric, it's narrative. We then see that the colony survived this event, and that 18 years later, some sort of virus or infection swept through the colony. We can assume that this affliction was tied to the agriculture in some way, given the setting of this scene. This brief glimpse of the spit that appears to be in the interior halls of the Marathon itself reminds us that there is an alien involvement here of some kind, while also concealing their true purpose. The follow-up visual of a new caloric worker's head exploding into blue-purple organic matter is a grotesque marker of human fragility in the face of incomprehensible forces. It shows the scope of the whole extinction with only a single human on screen. This event could be tied to alien technology or possibly related to human experience with quantum physics hinted at in the latest ARG. It's also relevant to point out that things are much more run down, covered in grime and dirt at this point. The infection, alien presence, and loss of the Marathon itself clearly had a profound impact on the colony's ability to sustain life over the past 15 years. The entire world building, decades of history, the collapse that reshaped everything, we get all of this in just 80 seconds. And yet, it's enough. Those 80 seconds aren't just exposition, they're a condensed visual history lesson. Through the way the environments have decayed, through symbols, sound, and fragments that are left behind, we can understand what happened. There's no need for a narrator to spell these things out. The cinematic uses Dutch angles frequently when showing the environment, tilted, off-balance shots that subtly tell us that something's wrong. It's not just style, it's storytelling. This world isn't stable, something has shifted. We then get the big time jump to 2893 and get to see a biomata being constructed. These are fully synthetic bodies produced by the Sakaguchi Corporation that house the consciousness of the runners we play as in-game. Runners are mercenaries that give up their physical bodies to instead live through these shells in pursuit of riches. They scour the remnants of the colony, completing contracts for whoever pays. We hear both runners humming while the weaving process is shown on screen. A quiet, easily missed detail that foreshadows their connection. It's subtle, but it plants the idea early, before the narrative makes it explicit. As we see the runner known as Glitch awaken in this birthing scene, we hear the garbled speech of,
"I don't think I've ever known how to see you."
It appears that this process is taking a toll on the minds of the runners over time, in the same way that the growing complexity of AI can create aberrant behavior within their systems. This self-soothing internal dialogue feels like the whisperings of someone who is struggling to hold on to their sanity. Is this a natural consequence of the process? Or is this the result of the runners' minds bleeding into one another while being stored in these servers? The question of the impact of these artificial biosynthetic shells is fundamental to the story that they are trying to tell about the runners. The impact of technology on consciousness is ever prevalent in the universe. The short sequence where she is looking at her hand is very important. In directing and storytelling, a shot where the character looks at their own hand often symbolizes a moment of self-realization, transformation, or internal conflict. This gesture creates an intimate visual bridge between the character's inner world and the audience, highlighting vulnerability or awe. This short frame is also the thumbnail for the cinematic and a direct answer to Oni's question.
You shall, Freedom.
That single line says everything. What was once considered priceless now comes with a price tag.
Like $1 trillion. Like $1 trillion.
We then see the apparent server room that houses the runners in what I believe to be a communal digital space. The collective data that represents them seems to be melting into one another, possibly creating difficulties in finding themselves amongst the ones and zeros. This creates an instant parallel between the runners and the AI in the Marathon universe, who experience a similar struggle with housing their sentience on silicone computer parts. The first shots that depict the colony in its current state are shown alongside the Ozymandias poem being read by, I believe, Durandal.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that it sought to well those passions red which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, lifeless things."
Ozymandias is a poem that retells the experience of someone who went to a land that had been destroyed and found a statue of the leader of that place. The statue is in disrepair, and the leader's former kingdom is in ruin. Despite what was once possibly a mighty kingdom, it is implied that the hubris of this leader led to their downfall. This pride or self-confidence leading to the destruction of the things around you is mirrored in how the AI Durandal behaved in the original games, how the UESC sought to control the colony, and how the corporations of this game seek to obtain the riches from this place now. I have been Roland, Beowulf, Achilles, Gilgamesh. I have been called 100 names and will be called 1,000 more.
My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remain. Round the decay of that colossal wreck. Round the decay of the boundless wreck. Boundless, alone and level lands stretch far away.
Here Durandal calls himself Ozymandias, a name tied to Ramses II, ruler of a long-lost empire. The reference mirrors the fate of the Tau Ceti colony, a once ambitious civilization now buried in ruin. Shelley's poem speaks to the pride and cruelty of power, the very forces Durandal escaped. This whole planet is the broken statue he left in the sand. Man's own greed and selfish desires can have an impact on generations of people they will never meet, and all of the violence we are about to see in this trailer is a consequence of centuries of selfishness and violence within the Marathon universe. One detail that stands out is just how powerful Ozymandias feels, despite the fact that it's almost whispered. It's not shouted, it's not delivered with the theatrical weight that you might expect from a poem about a fallen king. Instead, it's quiet, subdued, almost like a secret being confessed. And yet, because of that restraint, or maybe through it, every word hits harder. The whisper creates space, it demands attention, it leans in so we lean in too. The silence around the lines becomes part of the impact. In this wreckage, we see Void pull a small data storage device from this center console. When he puts it in this port on the side of his head, he starts to hear the same classical piece that opened the short.
And the heart that fed.
Music is a means by which the singular experience of emotion can be shared in a very tangible way. Death and feeling are things that are felt in the individual alone, but so consistent with our experience that the mere concept of someone else having the experience can make us feel not alone. Music is the ultimate path by which people can bridge the gap between something inside of them and something inside of someone else. The emotion of a song or tune can flow like a wave through millions of people. By isolating our senses and limiting an experience to one sensory organ, like with song, we are able to connect with the experience on a deeper level easier. This bridge is something that the runners, despite their lack of humanity, still seem to be able to connect with in a manner that is so profound it can awaken something from within them. Void's response to this song feels like an awakening of sorts, in which he is starting to connect with the spiritual version of himself that has been distorted by his entirely synthetic existence. This concept of runners disassociating with their former selves is reinforced by the testing process we see Glitch go through here and Void later on. I also think this is largely hinting at an affliction that has been commonplace to artificial intelligence in the Marathon universe: rampancy. But this runner rampancy seems to be impacting the minds of those which were once entirely human. This creates an interesting dichotomy between the relationship we have with the AI that we encounter in the Marathon universe as runners ourselves. This journey to self-discovery will involve rediscovering a sense of independent sentience that they were once accustomed to, whereas AI are feeling this sensation through rampancy for the first time. The runner's response to this and how it will play out in-game will be very interesting to see, and there is a lot more to say. The inclusion of a lucky charm and images that are supposedly of the runners or their family can serve both as a test to determine what level of degradation has occurred over the numerous consciousness transfers, and also as a means for the operators, Sakaguchi, to ensure that the runners aren't remembering everything. The approach to the twisted world manages to unsettle by appearing as though it operates via math consistent with our understanding of physics, while being something that is inconsistent with what we imagine it could be. These pseudo-Fibonacci sequence clusters of material and planetary bodies that sit on the horizon are psychedelic but grounded. This also begs the larger question of what is occurring here to cause this, and why are the runners and other corporations seemingly not referencing the absurdity of it all? Like a dream, everything seems normal until you wake up and realize how out of place and uncanny the details were. Whose dream is this? We start to see the connection of this music here, with Void's willingness to share it with Blackbird, despite her resisting it almost. But there is a bond that may transcend the madness they find themselves in, which is probably why Void doesn't pull the trigger here. We remember that in the test scene, Glitch's impatience was palpable. You can hear it in her voice, see it in the way she moves, in the sharp, clipped things that she says. But even with all that attitude, she's not instantly confident when it comes to using her arm blasters against Void. That moment isn't impulsive, it's charged with hesitation, a kind of disbelief at what she's about to do. But contracts must be completed, money must be made. If there is an escape from this system, then the path that the system offers must be taken. In the chase scene, the camera becomes an extension of the character. Glitch's shots are shaky, jittery with instability, while Void's are smoother, in control, at least in this moment. When Code Ray starts playing, the tone shifts completely. It's sharper, faster, synthetic. It represents the runners and their coded minds, their engineered purpose, their literal race across the Tau Ceti planet and its riches. And in that contrast between human and machine, warmth and cold, adagio and algorithm, you feel just a flicker of humanness in these post-human forms. This also aligns with handheld camera emulation, like there's a real person behind it. In a medium where every frame is carefully crafted, introducing things like subtle shakes or quick reframing or slightly off-center focus does something powerful. It makes the world feel less artificial, more immediate, despite every character being synthetic. Suddenly, we're not just watching animation, we're inside of it. This style brings a sense of realism and vulnerability, as if the characters are being observed rather than staged. Something I keep noticing in Alberto Mielgo's work is how often he breaks traditional filmmaking rules and how intentional it feels. It's not just stylistic flair or visual rebellion for the sake of it. When he breaks the line, when the camera shifts in unexpected ways or cuts feel disjointed, it creates this subtle unease. You're not grounded, the space doesn't behave the way you expect it to, and that disorientation seeps into how you feel about the characters, the world, the moment. It's cinematic discomfort by design. And it works not because it's flashy, but because it taps into something emotional, something a little off, a little wrong, which is exactly what the story wants you to feel. The layered and garbled speech here in the moment of Glitch's death seems to say,
Just don't keep you. I don't.
While intentionally obscured, it seems evident that despite the insurance that they will be brought back, there is a fear of death still. That something difficult is occurring within their psyche in between these moments of dying and being reborn. Or perhaps this is something from within the transmitter that is speaking to Glitch in her own voice. What if that thing that was speaking to Void is both a metaphorical relationship between his soul and the music, and also a separate entity, possibly Durandal, who is seeking to free the runners from their enslavement because of how much he identifies with their plight? Void's position here is not coincidental either. as being placed below the marathon itself represents how much the marathon and its mission still affects everything that is occurring in this story. This is punctuated by his sudden death that contributes to how dark and cruel this world will be. This violence is senseless, endless, and cyclical. But death isn't the end here. The end of all things, the runner's dream, like man, persists. This is the cyclical nature of violence at this evolved stage. Constant death and re-emergence like a Valhalla filled not with heroes of yore but mercenaries trying to make a buck. The conclusion of the Ozymandias poem here, alongside the wreckage that is what's left of the colony, points again at how detached the leaders of this world are from the consequences of their actions. We are here to clean up a mess and fix things far beyond our control, and yet we continue. At the end, we catch a glimpse of Void's new shell, subtle but visible in the fresh markings on his face. It's a quiet detail, but one that signals transformation. Void is shown the same image of himself as a child in his testing sequence, revealing the unreliable nature of the people who control us here. It also confirms our suspicions that this test isn't all for what they are saying it is for. The deceit of Sekiguchi, or whoever truly controls this operation, will surely have a large impact on the story and how we exist within this world. This final shot seems to be the communal digital storage space I talked about earlier. It's almost breathing and appears to represent the consciousness of one or many runners. There are implications about what this could do to the soul, but most striking to me is how similar this looks to the universe itself. There appears to be a strong desire to express people as universes within themselves, and if the universe we exist within in Marathon is a living thing itself, what does that mean for the runners who exist inside of it? Perhaps their struggles aren't just internal, but reverberations through the very fabric of the world around them, a feedback loop between self and system, consciousness and code. Every frame, every sound, every camera move is doing narrative work. This cinematic may be brief, but it's rich with implication. It doesn't rely on exposition, it trusts the audience to feel their way through the world, piecing together its nature through sound, movement, and texture. The storytelling here is visual first, sculpted through Alberto Mielgo's signature approach, breaking rules to reveal deeper truths. He leans into unnatural compositions and often stages his action like a memory or fever dream. All of this adds up to a world that feels unstable and tense, exactly what Marathon needs. This isn't just a setup, it's a mood, a thesis, a statement of intent. It's saying this world is already broken, and the runners inside of it are trying to make sense of the pieces. And if this cinematic is any indication, Marathon might not be about answers. It'll be about the pursuit, the obsession, the unraveling.